What is a Pionex futures grid bot? How to create one? And are there any best settings? What is my opinion of them after using them for a couple of time? Let's find out. Okay, first of all, we go to futures bot. And then we have a couple of options on the right side of your screen. So on this area here, where you can create multiple kind of bots. And I will go first of all with the futures grid, just for illustration purposes and explaining how this works. So I just created a configuration. It doesn't matter what I did so far. We will go about that in a couple of minutes. But how does it work? Well, you can see I currently have a bot that is divided its range into 181 grids. So you can see it down here, but we will go through these settings later on. And we can go long, short, or neutral. What does that mean? It means what it does with the initial position. So when we just go for the long bot, for example. So initially we go around 50% roughly of what you put in. It will directly convert it to Bitcoin, so that he can now, if the price directly moves up, he is able to directly start selling. So the interesting part about the grid bots is you can get arbitrage, meaning when the price rises, it sells at that point, then it drops, it buys at that point, then it rises again, it sells at that point, and so on and so forth. So you can see that you, even in a sideways market, as long as there's enough movement in the price, the bots will continue earning money. This is basically the way how these bots work. So we have three different directions. What's the difference? So when you go long, you start with around 50% of your initial investment already in the coin, so in this case Bitcoin. And then why is this important? Well, this is important because you could go straight up. So he already has something he can sell because he has not at these points, at these points, at these points. The short is directly the inverse of that. And the last one is the neutral. The neutral basically is not opening any position initially and trades both ways. So what does it mean? It means if it just rips up, he sells and sells here, he sells here, he sells here. So you're basically in a short position. If it comes down again, great. So then he buys back the short, buys back the short, buys back the short, buys back the short. But if you only go in one direction, you will only accumulate. So if it's going only up, you will only get short. If it's going down, you will go only long. So the short neutral bot is basically you want to be sooner or later at your entry point again. So these are the three differences. So the long bot only sells what he initially bought. The short bot only buys back what he initially sold. And the neutral one does basically go in both directions. Okay, how do we create a bot? Well, first of all, going to futures grid, create. You select the pair you are interested in creating. Then I would recommend go copy strategy, copy bot, and then we are going to customize the bot. Why are we going to customize it? Well, the bot itself has a range, a price range, as you can see here. Meaning in this range, the bot is actually doing the arbitrage. So when you scroll up and we make it smaller, you can see at these ranges, so above here or below here, the bot would stop working arbitraging. He's only working in this area here. And he will split currently this area in 181 grids, as you can see here. Why is this important? Well, first of all, let's say you put in, for ease of math, you put in $181 and you have 181 grids. This means each grid is then only a volume of $1 multiplied by the leverage, but we will come to that. And so you can see the more grids you have, the further your initial investment is spread thin. And the higher the range is, the further apart are these grids. So you can see here that it says around 0.14% to 0.23% is the profit per arbitrage trade. Here's the first step where you can actually increase your earnings or decrease, but you need to play around with it. You can increase the quantity of grids So you have more arbitrage trades. The problem is if you do that, you also pay more or more often trading fees for less volume, so or less earns. So let's say if you increase the grid, doubled, you halve the initial investment per grid, but you still pay percentage-wise some trading fees, right? So you pay maybe more on the long run in trading fees, but you also get more to arbitrage. So this is something you need to play around with. I find the sweet spots is already something between 0.1 to 0.2, so more or less configured like here, for the grid range. But this also depends a bit on the asset. So for example, Bitcoin is not moving that much compared to Ethereum, or not that volatile, so you get a different amount of arbitrage trades per day. So I would, for example, Bitcoin, I would go a bit tighter grids, so make more grids basically. And for Ethereum, I would go less grids because I got a lot of arbitrage. For the price range, you can look where you think the price will be going. So if you head to the daily chart, for example, I don't think it will go above 140,000 or even 130,000 maybe, but not in the near term. Also, the last time we saw something like 100,000. So I would probably do something like 100,000 here and 130,000 here. And now you see that the price here is already reduced, so you need to adjust the grids. So if you want to probably go something like 120 grids, yeah, more or less, maybe 130. Everything I tell you here is no financial advice. Do your own due diligence. But what we have now achieved is basically, yes, the range is shorter, but our capital is deployed a bit more efficient. Okay, next, investment amount. You can here put in whatever you want to invest. So, and you should adjust your leverage to what you feel comfortable. So let's say I put in $1,000 now, which I don't have, but anyway, you can see it here. With auto reserve on, it takes a part of that investment and already deploys it at margin. I really don't like that. If I need to, I deploy margin later on. So that's what this button does. We remove that, and now we put in $1,000. You can see here that the liquidity, the liquidation, this is probably the most important thing here. The liquidation is at $84,000. So meaning if the price drops to 84,000 and you have not stopped the bot yet, you will liquidate it. You will lose everything in this bot. So you should play around with the leverage. I rarely go above 5. I think 5, 4 or 3 are my sweet spot regarding leverage. You can go more risky, of course. Then you have a higher liquidation price. With 10 leverage, I already have 100,000, which would be too much for my case. So last things, take profit, stop loss. You can configure them here. As you can also basically do a limit order, meaning the bot is not opening directly, but when it hits the price, you can configure here, so the trigger price. So if you're, I don't know, have some technical analysis and says, I don't know, I want to open the bot when it hits 110,000, you could add it here, and then the bot will only start at 110,000. This is basically everything you need to be aware of when you're studying a grid bot. All right, this is a futures grid bot, meaning it will be invested with USTD and actually generate more USTD or lose USTD depending. Let's go about the other bots we have. We have this CoinM futures grid, and the Future Moon bots are basically the other ones that are super interesting. We will go back to the futures grid in the end because there's also something very interesting. The CoinM futures grid bot behaves from the arbitrage logic exactly like the futures grid. But instead of betting USTD, you invest the coins. So this is Solana now, and we have a Sol CoinM perpetual. So this is basically on this now is the CoinM futures grid, and we basically now invest instead of USTD Sol, and we also generate Sol. Personally, I think this bot is really great for long bot. Why? you generate more coin while the price is rising of that coin. So you have basically two things going for you. So imagine if the price is rising from 200 to 300 and you started with 10 Sol and you end the bot with, I don't know, 12 Sol. So it moved up $100. So you now have $300 1 Sol and you have 2 more Sol. So this is generating more than the normal futures grid, in my personal opinion and from what I've seen so far. So this is basically the difference. For a short, actually I don't see it. Yes, you get more of the coin while the coin loses value. Is something, I don't know. I wouldn't do a short. The last interesting one, I made a separate video about that, is the hedging one. The hedging one is always a one leverage, so you do not have any liquidation risk. And it's interesting, at least for coins, you do not mind holding long term and holding more to when you want to be value preserving. So what the hedging does is basically you also started with the coin, and compared to the short, it actually sells when rising and generates more of the coin when dropping. So this means we will have a look at one of the hedging ones later on. If the price is rising, you lose coin, but you make USTD. If the price is dropping, you make more coin, so you have more coin, but you lose USTD, or the value of that. Alright, let's talk about the futures moon next. The futures moon and the 3 below are basically all the same. They are moon bots. The difference to a normal other bots are the moon bots. You have, when you create these, you have 0 trading fees. So you will not pay any trading fees, but you will pay 20% when you close or when you withdraw profits, only on the profit. So if you close it for a loss, you will not pay anything. And you have absolutely no control about the grids. The grids are super tight, which is actually the benefit of these kind of bots, because you have a lot of arbitrage and you do not pay any trading fees on the arbitrage. So these are perfect for example, for Bitcoin and for other stuff. Last, before we head into an actual bots, when you go for the futures grid bot, you can also, instead of going for BTC USDT, for example, you can go for so-called, when you go here, cross-pair coins. So for example, let's head to the Ethereum BTC, which is actually also the BTC growth bot. When you start a BTC growth bot, it exactly is trading this pair. So what is the difference here? The difference is that it's trading not Ethereum to USDT, but Ethereum to Bitcoin. So this chart here rises when Ethereum rises in strength compared to Bitcoin and drops the other way around. What is cool here is this bot is now generating Bitcoin. So it's always generating the right side of the one. So if you would, for example, go for, I don't know, Solana BTC, the idea is the same. So when Solana rises, at least this price rises. When Solana drops, this price drops if these drops are compared to Bitcoin. So if both move exactly the same, this price stays stable, because this price represents the how much Bitcoin do I get per Solana. This is basically saying that. And the arbitrage or the movement of those allow you to earn more Bitcoin. So think about it. If you're doing, I don't know, if you're thinking about that both of these coins are more or less going in the same direction, but with a difference in the timing, for example. So say Solana and Bitcoin move exactly in the same range. So 1% up, 1% down, but offset by 1 day, offset by half day, or even not both 1%, but half a percent. Allowing this difference lets you earn arbitrage while keeping this relatively safe, because they are moving more or less in the same direction. But this is something, of course, you need to decide your own if you think this is happening. Alright, let's head into the bots section. So you can see here I have 9 bots open. Some are green, some are not so green. And if you go, for example, we head to the details. My personally best running ones are the ETC futures moonbots. So this is, if you remember, these are trading the Ethereum BTC, and they are moonbots, meaning they have super tight grids, and I don't pay any trading fees, but I pay when I withdraw earnings. So when you click on a bot, you can see overview, how long am I in a position, and a couple of interesting stats. But placed is a thing you could look all day long. Basically, it's you see when it's the next time selling or when it's the next time buying and how it's moving. So when it moves to that point, it sells. If it's moving to that point, it buys, and then you have another round of arbitrage. So in the transactions, you can actually see the transactions. So for example, for me, you can see here when the last time was the buy, one was the corresponding sell, if anything happened, what were the prices that paid, fees 0 in this case, and how much did this arbitrage trade make. So in this case, this arbitrage trade makes me 11 Satoshi. Doesn't sound much, but if you can see here, I make around 305 on average each day. So trades, not Satoshi. So with 305 multiplied by 11 is a couple of thousand Satoshi. And you can see here is my investment amount, the leverage, my current position, and the other stuff that you can might find interesting here. As well as if you click from this one and this, you can see the dollar value of that position compared to the actual coin value. Parameters is not much, at least in this bot. And funding history. In the funding history, you see funding rates paid if you have a funding rate for the coin or for the pair. The margin history if you change margin. And here you can see, for example, balance change, price range changes. And what's also interesting on the transaction, you can see the released profits. So this bot actually I already withdrew a couple of times the grid profits. All right. These are the futures moonbots. This here is a classical coin and futures grid bot. Currently looks not so great, but what I don't like about this display here of the P&L is that it does not take into consideration the amount I already withdrew from the grid. So when we go into here and you can see my transaction, I already released 33 XRP. So I already have withdrawn 33 XRP profit. And yeah, this bot is running and running and running. It's running for 40 days. It has already almost 5,000 rounds. It's great. It's making money as long as XRP stays above 2.6 or 2.55 in this case. This bot has a bit more options. So when you click more, you can see I could compound. It doesn't make sense because I'm not in the profit. I could add margin if we go to reach the liquidation price shortly. I could adjust leverage. I could edit price range. Most of this stuff, especially edit price range and adjust leverage, is not the best idea if you're in a negative, because it closes all currently open orders and you will realize the loss in this case. Reduce investment is basically a way to take partial profits or whatever you want to do, but if you're in a partial profit, you can reduce investment. So this will net your amount of profits you can have. And the last one is the hedging bot, which is super interesting. So you can see here, this is the hedging bot. I put in 0.1 Ethereum because I was thinking with all the downward movement, we go a bit more further down. And it's currently green in the profit in the Ethereum section and is red in the USDT section. If we are at the start at 4,417 and are now at 4,4. If we would be, for example, at 4,450, it would look exactly the other way around. So this would be red and the dollar would be green. I will make a different video about why I started these bots and what was my thought process, why I started them, and what my goal is. But the last thing is this one, for example, it's already showing the power of the potential grids. So you can see here, it's an ADA coin, so Cardano, coin and futures grid. I started this a bit over 2 days ago. it made around 700 arbitrage trades, which alone from these arbitrage trades made me 3.37% of the total position, so of the 217. Yes, the position is down currently, but if we say like the volatility keeps the same, so we do 700 in another 2 days, so in 2 further days, then we would have here something like 6.7, and then we would be in the green without anything else changing, because then this one would outpace this one. And one negative thing, of course, of these bots is they are selling step by step. So if you, for example, if this bot, or if Cardano would ripping, would pumping after I started this bot, it would generate less income than just a futures long position. Why? Because you can see here, it's selling at this price, worth of $5, it's selling at this price, at this price, at this price, and so on and so on. So it's always selling a bit down the road, where a normal long futures position would just sell at the end, where you want it to sell. So it would keep the whole position until you take profit. And here we also always sell something on the way, let's say. But on the other hand, if you're not right about the move, if the move is not happening, if it's just staying around or going up a bit, going down a bit, going up a bit, going down a bit, you make more of the money with just the arbitrage. So this is always, there's always a trade-off, right? And in this case is the trade-off. My experience with the Pionex bots is I really like them because you do not have to be perfectly right with your entries. You can easily make a bit of money. The only thing I don't like is some of these bots do not offer a compounding function. You need to restart them, and you still need to at least be roughly right with your entry and the direction. And the last and probably the most important thing, do not get greedy. I got liquidated once already, but it was a 25 leverage position and not placed at a good time. And if I had done it like a 15 or 10 leverage, I would have made so much money because everything recovered the whole way down, the whole way up. But I was greedier. This was the beginning of these bots. So always take the risk into consideration. I think these bots are more for a longer run. You can see this one is running 30 days. These are already running 50 days. And not for the quick buck. If you want to make it a quick buck and you are perfectly sure your entry is right, go for a futures trade instead of these bots. But apart from that, I really like them, and I also will try them out then when we move to the bear market, probably end of year or something, and how they then perform if I go the other way around. So I will be probably letting them run until the end of the year, but we will see about that. If you have any questions or want to share your own experience with these bots, leave a comment down below, and thank you for your time. Bye bye.